May I have your attention, please? In next 5 minutes, we are going to start the next session for the conference, which is diversification of energy basket and inclusion of clean energy resources. There is a mild change in the program. The session will be chaired by Mr. Amit Garg, who is the Director Commercial with Indraprastha Gas Limited. And the speakers for the session are Mr. Devdatta Mishra, AVP and Head Business Development, CBG Praj Industries, Mr. Julian Trepitz, Product Development Manager, TGE Gas Engineering, and Mr. Vinod Tahiliani, CEO, India Gas Solutions. I request all the delegates to kindly be seated. I invite our speakers for this session to kindly proceed to the dais. Mr. Amit Garg is going to chair this session. He is the Director Commercial of Indraprastha Gas Limited, India's largest CNG distribution company. Mr. Garg, a postgraduate in electronics and management, is a senior leader in oil and gas space with a rich and varied experience of over 33 years across multiple regions in the country in various roles in IGL and BPCL. Having worked across the entire value chain in the industry, including sourcing, storage, logistics, and sales across India, a master orator, he is aptly skilled in the areas of B2C and B2B sales and marketing, business strategy, business planning, team building, and operations. He joined IGL in July 2019, and in such a short duration with the organization, he has taken the organization to newer heights. During his tenure at IGL, in tune with IGL's philosophy of providing a cleaner fuel, IGL's per-day CNG sale has reached new levels. More than 90% of Delhi's industries have adopted natural gas as their preferred fuel, and company has reached out to several new geographical areas. During his earlier assignment, he had overseen and executed sales and marketing activities to deliver an enormous increase in the sales of retail fuels, industrial fuels, and petrochemicals. He had also been a mentor to professional teams of young engineers and MBAs. I invite Mr. Amit Garg to please take his seat. I also invite our speakers for this session, Mr. Devdatta Mishra, Mr. Julian Trepitz, and Mr. Vinod Tahiliani, to kindly proceed to the dais.
Hey guys, good afternoon to you. So, no, I should hear some noise. So, good afternoon to you. Yeah, that's great, no? And everyone says after a heavy lunch session, people fall asleep, and I don't believe in that because we are more charged by the good food, and then we have this pressure on us to stay awake. So, welcome back to this wonderful session. In the morning, some of the luminaries of the industry spoke about what CGD and natural gas is all about. And then there was a panel session on actually the nuts and bolts of the whole business. And I think aptly, rightly after this wonderful lunch that I was spoken about, we now get into the nitty-gritties of the natural gas business. And we talk about the LNGs, we talk about the biogas, we talk about so many other alternatives available in the market. So I have now the pleasure of talking a little about my good friend, Dev Mishra. He is the AVP and Head Business Development in Praj Industries. He has been alumni of IIM Calcutta. He is also a mechanical engineer, and he's got a rich experience of 17 years in the energy sector. He has got a rich hands-on experience of operations, projects, commercial, supply chain, while working with NALCO and Vedanta Group. As a consultant also, he has worked with PwC and KPMG. And I know as a consultant, you get many more insights than the actual business people. So I'm sure today we are going to get the best of his insights from that business. And he was also involved in the large scale transformation projects across Indian industries. Currently, as a business development head for renewable gas and biodiesel, he is instrumental in conceptualizing and driving the growth of this sector. He is based out of Pune and he travels a lot and is also a sports person. So can we hear for him? Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amit. Very good afternoon to all of you. Uh, Today I'll be speaking about the renewable gas opportunities in India. But before I do that, I just want to reiterate two things, two key directional changes that is happening in Indian energy sector. If you look at the first one, that is, the gas penetration in our energy basket. From the morning, different speakers spoke on that. Obviously, the energy demand of India is increasing. At the same time, if you look at Reliance, our reliance on crude is very heavy. We only have 6 to 7% of gas in our energy basket, whereas the world average is more than 24%. Gas is cheaper and cleaner, still we don't have much penetration in India. So one directional change in our Indian energy basket is to create more gas economy in India. And of course, government is doing work on that direction. Number of CGDs are increasing. Government is focusing to take it from 7% to 15%. At the same time, if you look at second direction that I'm talking about is the sustainability angle. So we are talking about increasing the renewable energy in the total energy basket. So if you take the total GHG emission, for example, so India has committed that by 2030 will reduce almost 30 to 35% of our GHG emission from 2005 levels. It's a huge task. And if you look at our number, that renewable fuel emits almost like 1/4 of CO2 than normal CNG. Now, second direction is renewable energy into the whole basket. But when you talk about renewable energy, within that, let's look at these three renewable fuels. One is ethanol, that goes into the petrol blending. Second is biodiesel, that goes into diesel blending. And third one is biogas or bio-CNG that can be replicated or that can replace CNG. So if you look at the potential, now ethanol, we have a supply potential only to the extent of 20%. Currently blending is 7 to 8%, but the amount of feedstock we have in India can only go till 20%. So we have a limitation. Biodiesel, currently the blending mandate is actual blending is 0.1%. And with the feedstock availability, we can hardly go up to 5%. But if you look at biogas, bio-CNG as a product, as a renewable energy, the potential that we have in India, from supply side, we can still go to 100% of current gas utilization. So there's a very big supply avenue opportunity is there. That's the reason I'm talking about there are two directional changes that is happening. One is penetration of gas. Second is penetration of renewables in our entire energy basket. Now let's look at the renewable gas and its potential in India. So what is this renewable gas? So I don't know, many of you may be aware that biogas in the last 20-25 years back, Government of India is pushing biogas from cow dung, Govardhan schemes and all. But typically this biogas can be generated from any kind of organic waste. For example, not only farm waste like chicken litter or cow dung, but it can be also from our food waste, from biomass, and from industry waste. Any kind of organic waste, when you do anaerobic digestion, the biogas comes out, and this biogas compositionally is having 55 to 60% methane and CO2 and other impurities. So CNG, the natural gas, is more about methane and butane propane. So this is identical. If you clean the CO2, we get biogas purified to CNG levels. So after this purification, we can use it in vehicular application like today we use CNG. Similarly, this biogas can also be used for electricity application, combined heat and power applications. So all these applications are possible depending upon end application. We can, use the purification process. Now let's look at what is the potential in India from a supply perspective. So if you look at the world map, the current biogas generation that is happening worldwide, majority of biogas production happens from the silage, the crop silage like wheat or corn silages, and almost another half comes from farm waste, chicken litter and cow dung. If you look at the right side figure, that is in India, we have a potential to generate 62 million metric ton of CNG, bio-CNG per year, and the major feedstock that is available in India is again biomass. We have lot of cattle dung and chicken litter, and at the same time there are a lot of industry waste, especially sugar plant based waste, which are press mud and bagasse. Similarly, we can also use sewage and MSW. And just a number, if you look at the 62 million metric ton, current entire CNG consumption in India is almost like 45 to 50 million metric ton. It's actually more than current consumption, the potential from a supply side. Now let's look at the potential from a demand side. So CNG, as in the morning session, we saw that the demand is huge, but because of the penetration levels were slowly increasing, the CGD demand of CNG is growing at 16-17% CAGR. October 2018, the Government of India and oil marketing companies, GAIL and other companies, they started the initiative called Satat, in which they are promoting the bio-CNG. And they have come up with this policy, but it's more towards cleaning the biogas to a level where it can be fed into vehicles, vehicular application. And from the feedstock that is available, in the first stage, we are talking about creating a 15 million metric ton as a goal. And to generate that much, we need almost like 5,000 plants to be set up to create this much demand. And second, this is one application of vehicular application. I have also looked at what other application that can go in this bio-CNG. So we interacted a lot with MNCs and industries, houses, that in last few years we see that a lot of sustainability mandate has come in. So which means the companies are saying that by 2025 or by 2030, I want to be carbon neutral in my energy consumption, both in electricity as well as in the process heat sections. And now to achieve that, they have a every year target. And most of these companies, because they are currently not meeting this target, they are buying energy credits, renewable energy credits. So it's a big segment, and distributed demand is there, where we can, they can put up these plants and utilize this. Second is the industrial CHP requirement, combined heat and power requirement. So if you look at renewables, biogas can be utilized both in power as well as process heat. So this CHP as a product can very well go into industries where there is both requirement of heat as well as power. Same case happens with 5-star industrial development corporations. There are many big size IDCs in India, and the challenge is, though we are talking about cheaper power from solar and ultra megawatt power generation plants, but actual realization, the actual power they are getting from this 5-star IDCs is actually more than 13, 14, even up to 15 rupees. And even the heating, they have heating loads. So we can look at 5-star IDCs, and we can combine for one IDC, we can have centralized units of CHP, which can produce heat and power from a renewable biogas. Last aspect is renewable power. So here also, as I said, the companies have a renewable mandate to convert to renewable power. This biogas or bio-CNG can also do that. So having said that, there is a huge demand as well as there is a supply of organic waste which can be converted. Let's look at how this sector is very nascent and hardly 1.5 years back it has started. So I just wanted to put up my thoughts on how this sector can be improved, or what are the challenges that needs to be taken care while developing this sector. So one aspect is, as in the morning session I heard that, so we are talking about very less percentage of gas-based vehicles. So we need to improve that. Today only we saw that petrol vehicles is changing to a gas engine, be it retrofit or factory fitted. But also we should look at how to convert diesel engines into gas-based fuel. It is already happening in Australia and other advanced markets. Even high payload trucks also can be shifted to a dual fuel system. So this is one aspect which will instantly increase the penetration levels of CNG or bio-CNG, especially gas. Second aspect is connection to gas grid. Today, if you look at the bio-CNG, is available at distributed places, in rural places, and wherever there is organic waste, we can create a plant. If we can connect these plants to the gas grid, then the flexibility can be taken care of. So that is one more critical aspect where we are also looking at all these CGD companies, how to work towards this. Third aspect is gas exchange and renewable energy credit trading platforms. Today, unfortunately, India doesn't have that premium of energy credits from a renewable fuels like we have in other countries like Brazil and USA. But if we can do this, because we see there is a demand, there is companies which are willing to pay for this, even they are buying outside. So if we can create a trading platform, I know we have a gas exchanges and Government of India is also working towards this, but it will facilitate the energy trading and renewable energy credits also. Fourth point is renewable gas to power. So we need a policy like in solar, you have a net metering system if you produce electricity. Similarly, can we do a net metering system from renewable power from biogas? So it will give the flexibility and uptake that we are struggling today, that we are not able to sell, and there is a risk of selling today from these plants. Another aspect is, I think in the morning somebody spoke about liquefaction of gas. So if you have liquid biogas, so it will improve the your uptake. What is the distance I can travel with this liquid biogas, and it will create that storage capacity that today, because of this gas volumes and because of the cascade system, is very difficult to store. That will get eliminated. And finally, we have blending mandates for ethanol in petrol, biodiesel for diesel. Similarly, we should look at, even government has announced it, so blending mandate for biogas and gas. So these are some of the aspects that will create or that will rejuvenate this sector going forward. Now I'll come to what Praj is doing in this biogas field. So today we have been there from 2005 onwards giving biogas plants. We started from spent waste based biogas plant, which is a waste from distillery, more than 50 plus references worldwide. But today the challenge is how can I take different kind of waste and produce biogas out of it. And this technology, if you look at, there are 4 stages. First part is pre-treatment. So our aim is to build a technology where I can have higher yield and efficiency. So that we have developed a pre-treatment system where it will take care of feedstock specific requirements. Similarly, the second portion or section is the biomethanation section. This is the heart of any biogas plant. There we have looked at how to maximize the yield and round the year operation without any maintenance trouble. So here we have taken the best of process solution and we have taken the best of the design. We are tied up with a company called DVO in US. So we are guaranteeing almost 30 to 40% higher yields in this section. Third part is gas purification, because after the gas is generated, we need to remove CO2 and S2S. So gas purification system, depending on end application, we can tweak the requirements. And here also we have a proprietary technology where we give gas purification. At the end of this, if you look at the other than the gas, that is output, these plants also give you organic manure as output. The undigested part comes out as organic manure. So these are the four sections, the typical section of a biogas technology. The key values that from a biogas solution perspective, first is we are now ready with solution for each and every kind of a feedstock, be it biomass, press mud from sugar plants, farm waste like chicken litter, cow dung, everything, all feedstocks we can handle. Second is we are talking about at least 30 to 70% higher yields. So that is our forte. And these plants should run uninterrupted, because biogas process is not so easy to tweak. It takes a long time to stabilize. So we have taken a design where uninterrupted it can run 5 to 10 years. So that has been our focus area. And we do both technology and EPC. And the last, I would like to just conclude by saying that Pras is focusing on biomobility. You have heard about e-mobility. So we are taking a concept of biomobility, and we see this is the future of India that we should focus when we are talking about renewables. Biomobility, if you look at, we are talking about fuels like bioethanol, 1G and 2G fuels, biodiesel. We are also talking about gaseous fuel that goes in biogas, bio-CNG. We are talking about replacing jet fuel with sustainable avial fuels. We are also working towards replacing marine biofuels. So in nutshell, biomobility, all kind of mobility, be it air, sea or road transport, we are looking at how to create renewable fuels go into these segments. And in long term, we believe it is much better in terms of societal, environmental aspect than e-mobility. And this is our focus, and we are striving towards that. So with this, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
If there are any questions in the audience that you would like to put up to Mr. Dev, we can take one or two questions, please. Yeah, you'll need a mic. May I request someone to hand over a microphone to him? Quickly, please. We have one here at the dais in case you are short of microphones.
Dev Saab, thank you so much. What is the approximate investment in terms of land and in terms of capex required for a biogas plant?
So both land and capex is determined basis what is the capacity, what is the feedstock, and what is the storage requirements. So depending on, so we are dealing with certain sizes of the plant. We start with some capacity. But this investment, you can start, if I'm talking about output as a capacity, 1 ton as a output, minimum 1 ton. So 1 ton output of CBG, final output, these plants can start somewhere between 10 to 15 crores, including all EPC. And land requirement again, 5 acre to 15 acre, depending upon your sizes. So if you have a specific requirement, I'll give you the details separately.
Yeah, I mean, just to understand, 5 acres of land minimum required and a cap of 15 crores.
So minimum requirement of land is again depending on what is your capacity. You can just have a correlation. For example, suppose you want to build a 10 TPD plant from biomass. Okay, we need 4 acres for the process plant. Another storage, because you need storage for the round the year operation. So storage we need another 10 acres. So that's the difference. How much storage you want, whether you want to storage at your location or you want to store at the distributor or the supplier locations. There are many dynamics that we can look at.
So apparently, the entire value chain, what you are describing, seems quite complex.
I would say yes or no, both. See, for a new entrepreneur, it might look very complex. But today, for example, if your question is specific to the biomass supply chain, so today it is existing for biopower applications. If you go to Punjab and other places, there are biopower, this biomass to power plants are already existing. They have a supply chain already existing. But if there is some place where the supply chain is not existing, we need some kind of handholding and some kind of challenge will be always there.
A hand at the back also, so we'll take that. That would be the last question, yeah.
Yeah. Like for example, for this solar power, we have the household solar power installations maybe on your rooftop or terrace. So can't similar thing can happen for the households or even the small farmers who can have their own captive power plant or bio plant rather?
Yeah, it is already there. I mean, I have seen captive biogas plants from captive waste. It's very small biogas plant. It's already there.
No, that gobar gas fine that we have been
Gobar
seeing
gas,
that.
even you have kitchen waste. You have leaves and whatever gardening you do, that waste. So it is there already.
No, because for example, all these say in Mumbai, for example, there are buildings. So every household, the biofuel collection can be done at a particular place, and there can be a plant which can generate the biofuel and which can be then either transferred or used
It
for
is
the.
there.
Okay, is
It
there.
is there. People are doing that. They do either composting or they do biogas generation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there was one hand at the back. If the mic can be please passed on to that gentleman, yeah. Thank you.
I think the earlier gentleman sort of touched upon that, but I wanted you to throw some more light on the waste supply chain, the waste segregation supply chain, and do you see that as a constraint? Because that did not appear anywhere in your slide on drivers/challenges. So do you not see that as a challenge?
I think
for
it's
this?
a very good question. I actually thought of, but looking at the gathering, I thought of it. Let's not go more about details. But yes, so looking at the feedstock, every feedstock has a different challenge. So, like I said, biomass, like rice straw or any kind of biomass residue has a different challenge. The challenge there is, it is generated in a window of 1 month because your crop, your harvesting happens in only window of 1 month, but we have to operate the plant 365 days. So their challenge is, can I take 1 or 2 crops, which is seasonal in nature, which I can combine and do, or I can store it in a way which is economically possible that I can do. So there, as I was saying that to certain extent it is already existing because power plants are taking, but it is not very difficult. We can store it, we can combine 2-3 crops. At different areas we have seen that we can combine rice straw with corn. So it is possible. Coming to second feedstock, like let's say sugar plant. Sugar plant, there's a feedstock is bagasse or press mud. So we have seen that every year we know that this is the capacity of sugar plant and this is the bagasse generation. It is pre-generated, pre-collected, it is there. So we don't see any challenge there in terms of availability and quality of feedstock. It is there. Only challenge is it is generated 5-6 months. We have to use 365 days. So we have a technology where we can preserve it. So that challenge is also not there. So that is a very good feedstock, I would say. Next feedstock is chicken litter or cow dung. The challenge in India is we don't have much mechanized and big farms in India. It's very distributed. So collecting becomes a challenge. But if somebody can do that at a cost which is economical, then yes. Challenge with MSW is again segregation of organic waste. But yes, it is possible. People are doing it. But at least we know that if it is MSW, every day you can get this much quantity. There can be fluctuation in terms of organic content and yield, but at least you are sure that this is my quantum of, and every day I'll get it. So I don't see much of the challenges. We need to conceive the plant in a manner that I can have a demand, I can have a raw material. I just need to conceive that way. I hope I kind of...
Yeah, so I think that answers most of the queries there are in mind right now. So thank you very much, Dev.
you.
That were very meaningful insights that we got about the CBG, bio CBG, CBG area. And like your company's logo, One Stop Solution, I think bio CNG can actually become a one-stop solution for many of the ills that we talk about in terms of the challenges facing the country. If we are able to produce those kind of volumes that you mentioned, or even half of it, so that would be so much less foreign exchange for the country, and also the right way of disposing of the waste that we have. All the problems that today we are facing because of those things do actually go out. And I think India as a country is very rightly positioned to go whole hog into the bio-CNG part of it. So thank you very much for those insights. And at IGL, we've already signed a couple of agreements, and we are in the process of taking that product directly into a grid. So that is that much of ease for the people who actually set up their plants. So thank you very much.